A really wild night last night. We had, you can see on the surface map here, the passage of a pretty intense mid-latitude cyclone, the very thing that we're beginning to talk about in our lectures right now. And at this moment, at 8:13 local time this morning, the storm center was located just at the corner of Minnesota, Iowa, and Wisconsin, so a little bit north of northwest of Platteville. And we had a pretty good amount of rain last night. 3/4 of an inch of rain is my estimate. I think we had 0.65 inches at the airport through midnight, and I think we had certainly more than that after midnight. How much more? I guess I don't have a direct measurement of that at the moment. But a 3/4 of an inch of rain is certainly the rainiest or snowiest, heaviest amount of precipitation we've had since probably early February. So it's been a long time since we've had a pretty good soaking like we did last night. And for moments, it was really raining heavily. And that's all associated with this very intense mid-latitude cyclone. It was windy with the rain last night as well. And it's kind of populated with lots of different boundaries that are here. It looks like a big spider's web with 1, 2, 3 cold fronts associated with it, a couple of warm fronts. We'll talk about those features later on in our series of lectures. But this storm is going to present itself beautifully in the satellite movie and really beautifully in a couple of companion last night and then this morning radar images, movies that I want to show you. So it really does present itself as a beautiful storm, and we all witnessed it in one way or another over the last 12 hours or so. And then weather out to the north and west, it looks generally unsettled in the northwest. We'll see on the satellite, it seems to be a series of much smaller disturbances than the one that's affecting us here in the western Great Lakes states that are making their way southeastward in northwesterly flow, so across the Pacific Northwest. So it could be a stormy couple of days for them, the middle and late part of this week. Overall, though, temperatures are not so bad, even though the weather system is quite intense. Temperature this morning in Madison is 47, so that's like the maybe third straight morning where we've had temperatures well above 40 degrees as you wake up. This time, though, with a really good soaking last night. So keep in mind 47-degree temperature. You'll see the dew point in a minute. And then you can see a boundary that separates temperatures in the 50s and low 60s in the yellow to temperatures in the low 40s and even colder well to the north and west in the 30s in western Kansas. That's the cold front, the main cold front associated with this particular weather system that is centered, as we just saw, right about where that X is, the cross is on the map. So that's the broad picture of the temperatures around us. Pretty nice day. Our average high temperature at this time of year is about 47 degrees. So we were 61 yesterday, well above normal. We may go down during the day today. So we will have reached a normal high temperature, but it won't really be during the afternoon. It's probably going to be right now. And then now look at the dew points across the country to give an indication of how much water vapor there is in this air. So 47 at Madison, 47 at Green Bay for temperatures. And notice that both of those locations have dew points of 45. So we're talking about nearly 100% relative humidity here. There's almost no difference between the temperature and the dew point. So the dew point depression is very small. And that indicates that the air is very close to saturation. And that's true probably generally. I won't compare every single temperature to every single dew point at all these stations, but we know we saw generally temperatures in the 50s and 60s in the southeast, and we've got dew points in the mid-50s to high 50s, sometimes 60 along the Texas Gulf Coast. So we're talking about pretty close to 100% relative humidity in most of the air in the eastern third, maybe, of the United States, here in the kind of up the Mississippi River Valley. So it's kind of it's not muggy because it isn't that warm, but it's a humid day. There's a lot of water vapor in the air, and that water vapor is being processed by this gargantuan weather system that is on its way out of our region, but has been affecting us for most of the last, 15 or 20 hours. So let's take a look now at the satellite movie that over the last several hours over the continental U.S. and adjacent waters, and it's especially striking here in the middle part of the country. Look at this beautiful counterclockwise rotating, comma-shaped cloud distribution. It's even got a secondary sort of cloud line that comes through. That was our late last night thunder shower, which may have produced a little bit of rumble around 1 a.m. I don't know that it did, as I said in my earlier discussion this morning. But anyway, beautiful storm. And look at the scale of this thing. This is something we'll start to emphasize when we begin talking in detail about the structure of these mid-latitude cyclones. We're setting the scale for that, for the stage for that right now. But the scale of this thing goes all the way from the southern or southwestern Gulf of Mexico all the way up to James Bay and Hudson Bay in northern Ontario. So this is characteristic. And then from east to west, it goes from the Gulf of Maine all the way to the Dakotas. So this is a typical size for a mid-latitude cyclone. And so many, many locations in that region of the globe are being affected by it in one way or another. And we were affected in a rather dramatic fashion late last night and very early into the morning today. Okay, so that's a beautiful cyclone that you can see rotating counterclockwise over the central U.S. One of the best ones we've seen during our time together since late January, at least right where we are. So beautiful storm. Now, let's take a look at last night's, I guess I have them in the wrong order. This is last night's rats. I only have one left. Sorry, that's a mistake of mine. Anyway, I had one saved from last night that I somehow lost. This is this morning's radar movie, and you can see here's the western edge of the cloudiness we saw in the satellite picture. It's still precipitating all the way along the Wisconsin-Minnesota border, and a couple of places probably pretty heavy showers, maybe even some thunder. Here, remember, was about the circulation center of the storm on our surface map, and it's just about where the circulation center appears to be at upper levels. Watch the rotation of these individual little green elements. They're all moving counterclockwise around that center point. I'll take the cursor away so you can see it a couple of times. So that's a really nice picture of the circulation center of this disturbance that's been affecting us. And then here's the cloudiness over New York, Pennsylvania, the middle Atlantic states, and then all the way down over the panhandle to Florida, Mississippi, and the boot heel, the toe of Louisiana. That's all associated with this same storm. And we miss it, we lose it up in Canada because they don't have any radars in Canada that we get in our mosaic. So a beautiful picture of this storm, even from the radar perspective, is well afforded by what we have here. Okay. And then I want to show you the West Coast satellite image as the final thing that we'll see today. We could maybe have seen this little disturbance coming across the coast of British Columbia, now making its way past Vancouver Island. That was barely visible on the satellite image that was, the central United States. And you can see it a little bit more straight on here in the West Coast image. And that's a pretty decent disturbance. It's kind of an unusual position for it to make its way coherently, as it does, across this very variegated terrain. There's really high terrain here along the coast, and that tends to shred these storms. That one's not getting shredded very much as it moves into the Seattle metro area and Portland as well. And it looks like it's not the last one in a series. This is storm number one. There's something else coming along here that you can see begin to take a little bit better shape. And then maybe there's even one just at the northern end of the Kenai Peninsula in Alaska. So there may be 1, 2, 3 storms in a row that come in from the west-northwest into the Pacific Northwest. And then you can see this next disturbance that I didn't mention over the Four Corners area that's rotating counterclockwise. That may have something to say about severe weather in the southern plains later on this week. So a pretty interesting weather map all across the continental U.S. and adjacent waters, a little bit less exciting in the Pacific for the first time in a while. And that's what the weather looks like this morning.